My daughter-in-law, Veronica, stood at the head of my dining table, the one my late husband carved by hand 40 years ago, and announced to our entire Thanksgiving gathering that she had an important message for everyone. I thought she was going to make a pregnancy announcement or share some happy news. Instead, she looked directly at me and said, I think we all need to acknowledge that some people at this table contribute to our family, and others just take up space. The room went silent. 23 people, including my 3 children, their spouses, 7 grandchildren, my sister Patricia, and several close family friends, all stared at me, because everyone knew exactly who Veronica was talking about. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from in the comments. I need your support to keep sharing these stories. Let me back up and explain how I ended up being publicly humiliated at my own Thanksgiving dinner. My name is Alina, and I'm 71 years old. I've been a widow for 8 years since my husband Thomas passed away from a sudden heart attack. We'd been married for 42 years, raised 3 children, and built a beautiful life together in the home we bought when we were newlyweds. After Thomas died, my oldest son Gregory and his wife Veronica started coming around more often. At first, I thought it was because they cared about me and wanted to make sure I wasn't lonely. I was wrong. 6 months after Thomas's funeral, Gregory sat me down with a very serious expression. Mom, Veronica and I have been talking, and we're worried about you living in this big house all alone. What if something happens? What if you fall and can't get help? I appreciated the concern, even though I was perfectly healthy and active. I volunteered at the library twice a week, took water aerobics classes, and had a thriving social life with my book club and church group. We think you should consider selling the house, Gregory continued. It's too much for you to maintain. You could move into a nice assisted living facility where there are people around all the time. Assisted living? Gregory, I'm 71, not 91. I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself and my home. But Veronica chimed in, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Alina, we're just thinking about your safety and your future. This house is worth a lot of money. You could sell it, invest the proceeds, and live very comfortably somewhere more appropriate for your age. Something about the way she said, appropriate for your age, made my skin crawl. I told them I appreciated their concern, but had no intention of selling the home I'd shared with Thomas for over 4 decades. They dropped the subject that day, but it came up again and again over the next year. Every visit included some comment about how the house was too big, too expensive to maintain, too isolated. Finally, I understood what was really happening. They weren't worried about me. They were worried about their inheritance. You see, Thomas and I had worked hard our entire lives. He was a mechanical engineer, and I taught elementary school for 30 years. We'd saved diligently, invested wisely, and paid off our mortgage 20 years ago. Our house, a beautiful 4-bedroom Victorian in a neighborhood that had become very desirable, was now worth close to $600,000. Gregory and Veronica had done the math and decided they wanted access to that money now, not after I was gone. But I wasn't ready to give up my independence or my home. So I started setting boundaries. When they'd bring up selling the house, I'd change the subject. When Veronica would casually mention properties she'd seen that would be perfect for me, I'd politely decline to look at them. This went on for about 2 years with increasing tension at every family gathering. Then came this Thanksgiving. I'd been hosting Thanksgiving dinner for my entire married life. It was my favorite holiday, a time when all my children and grandchildren would gather in the home where they'd grown up, eat traditional family recipes, and create memories together. This year, I'd spent 3 days preparing. Turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, cranberry sauce, sweet potato pie, pumpkin pie, apple pie, homemade rolls. Everything from scratch, just like always. Gregory, Veronica, and their 2 teenagers arrived first. Veronica walked through my house like she was conducting an inspection, running her finger along surfaces and making little disapproving noises. Alina, you really should consider hiring a cleaning service. This is too much house for one person to keep up. The house was spotless. I'd spent the entire previous day cleaning in addition to cooking, but Veronica had a talent for making me feel inadequate no matter what I did. My daughter Michelle and her husband arrived next with their 3 young children. Then my youngest son, David, came with his partner, Alex. My sister Patricia, who'd driven 4 hours to be there, arrived with her famous cornbread dressing. And I'd also invited the Hendersons, an elderly couple from my church whose children lived out of state. By 2 o'clock, my house was full of laughter, conversation, and the smell of roasting turkey. Everything was perfect until we sat down to eat. I'd set the table with my grandmother's china, the pieces I only brought out for special occasions. The turkey was golden and beautiful. The side dishes were arranged perfectly. I looked around at my family gathered together and felt genuinely happy for the first time in months. Then Veronica tapped her wine glass with her fork. Everyone, I have something I'd like to say. I thought maybe they were announcing a pregnancy. Veronica's daughter was 20, her son was 17, so it seemed unlikely, but you never know. Instead, she launched into what can only be described as a character assassination disguised as a toast. I want to take a moment to talk about family and what it means to contribute to the people we love. She went on about how some people give selflessly, while others take advantage of family generosity. She talked about how important it is to think about the next generation and not be selfish with resources. And then came the line I mentioned earlier about some people contributing and others taking up space. My daughter Michelle looked horrified. David's face turned red with anger. But Gregory just sat there, nodding along like Veronica was delivering the Gettysburg Address. I felt like I'd been slapped. In my own home, at the table I'd spent days preparing, in front of my entire family and friends, my daughter-in-law had essentially called me a selfish burden. The children were confused, the adults were uncomfortable. Patricia started to say something, but I held up my hand. Actually, Veronica, you're absolutely right. Some people do take up space. I stood up from my chair at the head of the table. And I've just realized that I've been taking up space in my own home, accommodating people who see me as nothing more than a future bank account. I looked directly at Gregory. Your father and I bought this house in 1978 for $42,000. We raised you and your siblings here. We celebrated every birthday, every holiday, every milestone in this house. And now you want me to sell it so you can have your inheritance early. Gregory's face went pale. Mom, that's not, yes it is, Gregory, let's be honest for once. You've been pressuring me to sell this house for 2 years because you want the money. Not because you're worried about me, but because you're worried about your financial situation. Veronica stood up, her face flushed. How dare you, Alina? We've been nothing but concerned about your well-being. Have you? Because concerned children don't publicly humiliate their mother at Thanksgiving dinner. Concerned children don't treat their widowed mother like she's incompetent. Concerned children don't measure their parents' worth by the size of their potential inheritance. I turn to address everyone at the table. I want to apologize to all of you for the scene. You came here expecting a nice family dinner, and instead you're witnessing something very ugly. But I think it's important that everyone understands what's been happening. For 2 years, Gregory and Veronica have been pressuring me to sell my home. They've suggested I'm too old, too incompetent, too lonely to live here. They've made me feel guilty for wanting to stay in the house I shared with my husband for over 40 years. And today, Veronica decided to humiliate me in front of all of you to pressure me into doing what they want. Michelle was crying now. Mom, I had no idea. We would never, I know, sweetheart. This isn't about you or David. This is about greed disguised as concern. Gregory finally found his voice. Mom, you're being dramatic. We just think I don't care what you think, Gregory. This is my house, my life, my decision, and I will not be bullied or shamed into giving up my independence to make you financially comfortable. Veronica grabbed her purse. Well, I certainly don't need to stay here and be insulted. You're right, Veronica, you don't. In fact, I'd like you to leave. Now, the silence that followed was deafening. Gregory stood up slowly. Mom, if Veronica leaves, I leave, then I guess you're both leaving. My voice was calm, but my hands were shaking. Gregory, you're my son and I love you, but I will not tolerate this behavior in my home. If you can't treat me with basic respect, then you're not welcome here. They left. Actually, stormed out would be more accurate. Veronica made sure to slam the door hard enough that the pictures on the wall rattled. After they were gone, I turned to my remaining guests. I'm so sorry you all had to witness that. I understand if you want to leave. Patricia stood up and hugged me. Alina, we're not going anywhere. You cooked this beautiful meal, and we're going to eat it and celebrate what Thanksgiving is actually about, being grateful for what we have and the people who truly love us. Michelle and David both came over to embrace me. The Hendersons, bless them, started passing dishes around like nothing had happened. We ended up having a lovely dinner, though I'd be lying if I said I wasn't heartbroken. That night, after everyone had gone home and I was alone with the dirty dishes and leftover food, I cried. Not because I regretted standing up for myself, but because my own son had chosen money over his mother. I'd raised him better than that, or at least I thought I had. The next morning, I received a text from Gregory. Mom, you owe Veronica an apology. She was trying to help, and you embarrassed her in front of everyone. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I called my lawyer. Alina Chen had handled Thomas's estate and helped me with various legal matters over the years. I trusted her completely. Alina, it's good to hear from you. How was your Thanksgiving? Complicated. That's why I'm calling. I need to make some changes to my will. Over the next hour, I explained everything that had happened. Alina listened without interruption, though I could hear her typing notes. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Alina, I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Unfortunately, it's more common than you'd think. Adult children pressuring aging parents about their assets. What would you like to do? I want to make sure that Gregory and Veronica never benefit from pressuring me to sell my house. Can we set up the will so that if I sell the house while I'm alive, The proceeds go into a trust that they can't access? Absolutely. We can also include provisions about your care if you do eventually need assisted living. The costs would come from the estate before any inheritance is distributed. We spent another hour going over details. By the time we finished, I had a plan. My estate would be divided equally among my 3 children, but with conditions. If I sold my house while alive, the proceeds would be placed in a trust to cover my care for the rest of my life. Anything remaining would be split among all my grandchildren, not my children. Gregory and Veronica would get their share of other assets, but they'd never see a penny from the house sale they'd been pushing for. Additionally, I set up a provision that if any of my children contested the will or attempted to have me declared incompetent, they would be completely disinherited. It might sound harsh, but I needed to protect myself. Over the next few weeks, Gregory called several times. Each conversation followed the same pattern. He'd start by saying Veronica felt terrible about the misunderstanding, then he'd suggest I'd overreacted, then he'd hint that maybe I was getting confused in my old age and couldn't see they were trying to help. I didn't engage. I simply told him that my decisions about my house and my life were final and not up for discussion. Then things got worse. About a month after Thanksgiving, I received a call from Adult Protective Services. Mrs. Alina Thompson? Yes, this is she. I'm calling because we received a report that you might be living in unsafe conditions and potentially experiencing cognitive decline. Your family is concerned about your welfare. My blood went cold. They'd actually reported me to social services. I have an excellent relationship with my doctor, I said carefully. I'm in good health both physically and mentally. I understand, ma'am, but we do need to follow up on reports. Would you be available for a home visit? We just want to make sure you're safe and have the support you need. I scheduled the visit for the following week, then immediately called Alina Chen. They're claiming I'm incompetent. They're trying to force the issue. Alina was furious. This is elder abuse, plain and simple. Financial exploitation through manipulation and coercion. Don't worry, we'll document everything. I want you to get a complete physical and cognitive evaluation from your doctor before the APS visit. The social worker who came to my house was a kind woman named Sarah Martinez. She walked through every room, asked about my daily routines, my social activities, my ability to manage my finances and medications. I showed her my perfectly organized home, my calendar full of volunteer work and social engagements, my checkbook that I balance myself every month. Mrs. Thompson, I have to say, you're one of the most capable 71-year-olds I've ever met. Your home is immaculate. You're clearly active and engaged. Your cognitive function is sharp. I'm not sure why your family reported concerns. I took a deep breath. May I be honest with you, Sarah, please? My son and daughter-in-law want me to sell my house so they can have early access to their inheritance. When I refused, they started suggesting I was too old and incompetent to live alone. The Thanksgiving incident was their attempt to publicly shame me into compliance. This report is their next strategy. Sarah's expression hardened. I see this more often than I'd like. Do you feel safe? Physically, yes. Emotionally, I'm hurt and angry, but I'm managing. I have a strong support system with my other children and friends, and I've taken legal steps to protect myself. Good. I'm going to close this case as unfounded. But Mrs. Thompson, I want you to keep documentation of any further attempts to pressure or manipulate you. If this escalates, we need to have a record. After Sarah left, I sat down and did something I'd been avoiding. I wrote Gregory a letter. Dear Gregory, I've thought a lot about what's happened over the past 2 years and especially about Thanksgiving. I need you to understand something. When your father died, I lost my partner of 42 years. The person I'd built my entire adult life with. This house isn't just a financial asset to me. It's where we raised you. It's where your father taught you to ride a bike in the driveway. It's where we celebrated your graduation, your wedding, the births of your children. Every room holds memories of the life we built together. When you pressure me to sell it, you're not just asking me to give up a house. You're asking me to erase the physical space where I still feel closest to your father. You're asking me to abandon my independence and my autonomy because it's financially convenient for you. I understand that you and Veronica have financial pressures. But your inheritance is not a solution to your current money problems. It's not my responsibility to fund your lifestyle by giving up mine. What happened at Thanksgiving was unforgivable. Veronica publicly humiliated me in my own home, and you supported her. Then you reported me to Adult Protective Services, trying to have me declared incompetent because I won't do what you want. This is elder abuse, Gregory. I've consulted with lawyers and social workers, and they all agree. You're attempting to financially exploit me through manipulation and coercion. I love you, you're my son, but I will not allow you to treat me this way. Until you can acknowledge what you've done and offer a genuine apology, not one designed to manipulate me into changing my mind, I don't want contact with you. I'm not cutting you out of my life forever. I'm setting a boundary. When you're ready to treat me with the respect and love a mother deserves, we can rebuild our relationship. But it will be on terms of mutual respect, not manipulation. I sent the letter certified mail so I'd know he received it. His response came 2 days later via text. Mom, you're being unreasonable and cruel. We're your family. How can you choose a house over your own son? I didn't bother responding. He still didn't get it. 3 months passed. I heard through Michelle that Gregory and Veronica were telling people I'd had some kind of breakdown and cut them off for no reason. That I was being manipulated by my lawyer and my other children. That they were just trying to help and I'd turned on them. The lies hurt, but I'd expected them. People who manipulate others rarely take responsibility for their actions. Instead, they play the victim and rewrite history to make themselves look sympathetic. Then something interesting happened. I ran into Veronica's mother, Patricia Donovan, at the grocery store. Alina, I've been hoping to see you. Can we talk? We went to the coffee shop next door. Patricia looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with her cup. I need to apologize to you. I had no idea what Veronica was doing until Michelle called me after Thanksgiving. What she did was inexcusable. I raised her better than that. Patricia, you're not responsible for your daughter's behavior. I know, but I feel terrible. And I want you to know something. Veronica's been pressuring us to give them money for years. Her father and I have refinanced our house twice to help them out. We're 75 years old and still have a mortgage because we kept bailing them out. We finally said no last year, and Veronica barely speaks to us now. I think that's when she started focusing on your house. My heart sank. So this wasn't just about my inheritance. This was a pattern. They're in serious financial trouble, Patricia continued. Gregory makes good money, but Veronica spends it faster than he can earn it. Designer clothes, expensive cars, private schools for the kids, even though the public schools in their district are excellent. They're drowning in debt, and instead of changing their lifestyle, they've decided the solution is accessing other people's money. After Patricia left, I felt sad for Gregory. He'd married someone who was leading him into financial ruin, and he was too proud or too blind to see it. But that didn't change what I needed to do. I needed to protect myself. Around month 4, I got a call from Michelle. Mom, I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it. Gregory and Veronica are talking to lawyers about having you declared incompetent. They want to get power of attorney and force you to sell the house. I'd been expecting this, but it still felt like a punch to the gut. Let them try. I have documentation from my doctor, from Adult Protective Services, from my lawyer. I'm clearly competent. But Mom, a legal battle would be expensive and stressful for everyone. Maybe you could just talk to them, try to work something out. Michelle, I love you, but no. I'm not negotiating with people who are trying to steal my autonomy. If Gregory wants to take me to court, he can try, but he's going to lose and he's going to waste a lot of money in the process. Alina Chen agreed. Alina, you have medical documentation of your competency. You manage your own finances. You live independently. No judge is going to grant them power of attorney against your will. Let them waste their money on lawyers. It'll just prove what this is really about. The legal threat never materialized. I suspect their lawyer told them the same thing Alina told me, that they had no case. But the attempt showed me just how far they were willing to go. 6 months after Thanksgiving, I made a decision. I called a family meeting with Michelle, David, and Patricia. I also invited the Hendersons because they'd become like family to me. I need to tell you all something, and I want you to hear it from me directly. I've made significant changes to my will and my estate planning. Michelle looked worried. Mom, you don't have to explain your financial decisions to us. I want to, because I want you to understand my reasoning. I explained the new will provisions. How if I sold the house, the money would go into a trust for my care. How the remainder would go to my grandchildren, not my children. How anyone who contested the will would be disinherited. And most importantly, I've set up a provision that if I'm ever declared incompetent, either legitimately or through manipulation, an independent trustee takes over my estate. No family member will have access to my finances or decision-making power. David spoke first. Mom, that's smart. You're protecting yourself from exactly what Gregory's been trying to do. But what about us? Michelle asked. Are you worried we'd do the same thing? No, sweetheart, but I need these protections to be universal. I can't create provisions that only apply to one child without creating more family drama. You and David will still inherit equally when I'm gone. I'm just making sure that no one can pressure or manipulate me into giving up my independence before that time comes. Patricia hugged me. Alina, Thomas would be proud of you. Standing up for yourself, protecting what you built together. That's exactly what you should be doing. Over the next year, I settled into a new normal. I saw Michelle and David regularly. I spent time with my grandchildren. I continued my volunteer work and my social activities. I even started dating a lovely man named Frank who I met at a library fundraiser. Life was good. Better than it had been in years, actually, because I was no longer walking on eggshells trying to please Gregory and Veronica. Then came the following Thanksgiving. I'd planned to have a small dinner with just Michelle's family, David and Alex and Patricia. But 3 days before the holiday, Gregory called. Mom, I know it's been a difficult year, but it's Thanksgiving. Can we please put this behind us and have dinner together as a family? What exactly are we putting behind us, Gregory? The fact that you tried to manipulate me into selling my house? The fact that you reported me to social services? The fact that you threatened to have me declared incompetent? Those aren't small misunderstandings. Those are serious betrayals, I know, and I'm sorry. Veronica and I have been in counseling and I'm starting to see how toxic our behavior was. I'm not asking you to forget everything. I'm just asking for a chance to start rebuilding. Something in his voice sounded different, less defensive, more genuine. Gregory, I appreciate the apology, but I need to know that you understand what you did wrong. Not just that you're sorry I'm upset, but that you genuinely understand how you hurt me. He was quiet for a long moment. Mom, I was so focused on our financial problems that I stopped seeing you as my mother. I saw you as a solution to our money issues. That was wrong. You deserved better from me. Veronica's been working with a financial counselor, and we're getting our spending under control. We sold one of our cars. We've cut up our credit cards. We're learning to live within our means. And I'm realizing that I damaged my relationship with my mother because I was too proud to admit we'd made bad financial choices. I felt tears welling up. That's the first time you've taken real responsibility, Gregory. I'm proud of you for getting help, but I need you to understand that rebuilding trust takes time. You can come to Thanksgiving dinner, you and Veronica both, but there are ground rules. No discussions about my house, my finances, or my future living arrangements. If you can't respect that boundary, you'll need to leave. I understand, Mom. Thank you for giving us another chance. Thanksgiving dinner that year was tentative but peaceful. Veronica was quiet, almost subdued. She helped with dishes without being asked. She complimented the meal genuinely. Gregory played with his kids and actually asked me about my volunteer work at the library. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. After dinner, Veronica asked if she could speak with me privately. We went into the living room, and she sat on the edge of the couch, looking nervous. Alina, I owe you a real apology. Not the fake ones I gave before when I was just trying to manipulate you into doing what we wanted. What I said at Thanksgiving last year was cruel and unforgivable. I was so stressed about our financial situation that I took it out on you. That's not an excuse, just an explanation. I'm sorry. I accepted her apology, though I knew it would take time before I fully trusted her again. But it was a start. Now, 2 years after that terrible Thanksgiving, Gregory and I have rebuilt our relationship. It's different than it was before. There's less naivety on my part, less entitlement on his, but it's healthier. They've genuinely turned their finances around. Veronica got a job. They downsized to one car. They're living within their means and actually seem happier for it. And I'm still in my house, the one Thomas and I built our life in. I'm still independent, still active, still making my own decisions. The karma in this story isn't that Gregory and Veronica suffered some terrible fate. It's that by trying to take something from me, they lost something far more valuable, their relationship with me and their own self-respect. And in the end, the financial counseling and lifestyle changes they were forced to make actually improved their lives. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply refusing to be manipulated and letting people face the natural consequences of their choices. Gregory and Veronica learned that family isn't about what you can take from each other. It's about what you give freely, with love and respect. I'm 73 now, still in my beautiful Victorian house, still surrounded by memories of Thomas and our life together. And I'm grateful every single day that I stood up for myself, even when it was hard, even when it cost me a relationship with my son for a while. Because in the end, I taught him a lesson that will serve him for the rest of his life. You can't buy love, and you can't manipulate your way into someone's good graces. Real relationships are built on respect, boundaries, and genuine care for each other's well-being. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've experienced something similar, please share in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself and setting boundaries. Your support means everything.